Alright, so I'm walking here. Hopefully this isn't too extremely jerky. I'm going to try to use I think YouTube has a little checkbox filter thing that pares your screen down and averages your bumps out. But, so hopefully it's not too extremely jerky. Yeah, trying to continue my ideally daily, but I don't know. Let's see if I can keep it to daily. Vlog thoughts here. One of the things I'm trying to remind myself of that came up yesterday and it's been on my mind today is kind of the importance of the macro, or just remembering the basics, understanding the basics. I feel like the basics everyone wants to master something, and I'm all about mastering something. I'm all about focusing on a few things and doing really well rather than many things and only understanding them slightly, which almost sounds contradictory. But on the other hand, I feel like understanding the fundamentals is actually so incredibly useful, and one can go so incredibly far. And the word basic or simple or fundamental almost makes it sound extra easy, and that makes it sound like, oh, everyone would do it, so it must not make that big of a difference. But fundamentals, like, those are the biggest parts of something and therefore have the biggest effect and are probably the most important things to not forget. And I think, like, when it comes to life, the really basic things that everyone knows, a lot of times people don't do and underestimate and are trying to look for, that secret little micro wisdom that's going to make their life so different and so much better. And while I think you want to, there's little wisdom and little truths out there that, hearing something a different way may better your life and make a difference, and I'm all about things like that. It's easy to underestimate the fundamentals psychologically, and that's so hurtful. It can be really hurtful if I think things like getting enough sleep, eating well, getting good nutrition and physical exercise are like, everyone's got to do that. And I think another thing right up there with those things are what some people would call meditation, or basically in my definition would be just time to yourself to honestly, like, part of the reason I'm reminding myself of the basics and of the importance of the basics is because I'm overlooking that, and I have to have that meditation time, that time to just take everything, look at it, filter out the immediate feelings, and try to remind myself, okay, what's really important. A lot of times that meditation time helps me feel grounded. I see the big picture again, and let myself be reminded of the fundamentals, and then line everything else back up. Kind of get my brain reorganized. And whatever you call that, meditation, I honestly, when I talk to my wife, I call it stare at a wall, because a lot of times I will be staring at a wall, just let my brain kind of just think through things, let things come up as they may. I'm not a meditation expert, but the more I'm reading and trying to learn from people who are where I want to be, trying to find the most influential people who, have things, whether it's character or material or both or whatever that I want. A lot of times, almost all of them talk about meditation. And I've heard it said, I think it was Tony Robbins that said, if you don't have 20 minutes for meditation, that's a sign that you need 2 hours. And I very much understand, I think, what he means. Anyway, really, my whole thought is reminding myself of the basics. I gotta get sleep. I got to be able to get, like, I want to prioritize sleep. I want to get good nutrition. I want to work out. I want to be able to read, and I want to be able to, I keep adding things to my list and realize I didn't say read before. Now I said read. I think reading, basically putting myself in a position to be influenced by those around me. I think it's just a fundamental thing. And then it's the time to, like, let my brain decompress and refocus, remind myself what I find valuable, and, you know, what's important, is very useful. It's really simple stuff. I think easy to say. Most people would say, well, of course those are good things, but a lot of people don't live them, including me, and I have to remind myself, like, wait, I'm getting too caught up on this little thing, and I think it's hurting me. So, kind of as a side note, I remember hearing about Elon Musk, and if you know anything about him, SpaceX and Tesla are just some of the things he's known for, and those are probably the two more current things that I know about with him that he's very famous for. But Tesla and spaceships, cars and spaceships are, I mean, definitely both involve science and engineering, but really they're two different focuses, and it is kind of impressive how he seems to be able to learn so quickly. And I've heard it said that he's a master of understanding the fundamentals, and it also reminds me of the same thing, just of thinking here about fundamentals. Like, when he goes into an area, it's from what I understand, he tries to look at the basics, understand, and then you can extrapolate. If you understand the fundamentals well, you can extrapolate from that, and rather than trying to, you know, you understand the big picture, and from that you can fill in the middle. But yeah, that's definitely something I'm understanding more, kind of along those lines, more along the lines of the big picture, and able to fill in the middle. I feel like there's different ways that people see the world, from what I observe and from what I understand. There are what sometimes is considered book smart people and street smart people. Book smart people are able, generally the way I've heard it interpreted, are book smart people are able to recite things, places, names. They're able to recite what they read in the book without necessarily understanding it. Street smart people are able to think on their feet. In the moment, they're able to extrapolate and understand, the way something works, and come to their own original conclusions that no one told them. It's kind of the way I interpret those two words, and I think oftentimes it's the way what they're intended to mean. And also, like, the difference can be practical intelligence versus someone can answer the questions right on the test. Street smart would be the practical, like, they can actually, in the real world, they can actually come up with the solution that's going to work. Where the guy is going to get an A on his test because he's book smart doesn't necessarily mean he's street smart. But I think if I had to choose between the two, would I be able to recite things but not understand them, or would I rather understand them and maybe not be able to give the proper name for something, but naturally understand how it works, or in a real world situation be able to come up with a useful solution and a useful a useful solution. I would definitely be the street smart. I'd rather be both. I'd rather be book smart and street smart, but if it came down to it, I'd way rather be street smart. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are more street smart than book smart. A lot of them very much emphasize the fact. I was listening to Ray Dalio, a couple different interviews with Ray Dalio, and one, I think, by Timothy Ferriss. He was very, very much emphasizing the fact that I think the way he said it was he had a horrible rote memory. I think that's right. And if he couldn't remember something, he remembered something more because it made sense than any kind of book smart. He's almost like he doesn't have any book smarts. He's only able to understand and remember something because it makes sense. And Ray Dalio is one of my. I'm a huge fan of Ray Dalio. I don't know. I'm getting a collection of people I'm a very big fan of, in their own area. I think. Well, Ray Dalio is, I believe, the CEO of the biggest hedge fund company in the world called Bridgewater. He's famous for what it used to be a PDF, and I think is now I don't know if you can get the PDF anymore. It's a book called Principles, and it's basically the principles he's used to be successful, and they are awesome. They are what I would say the macro and the fundamentals. They're just they're basic stuff, very basic stuff, like things that Ray Dalio I'd say is famous for are, I think he even said himself in an interview that he isn't so good at coming to the conclusions himself. He is good at finding and creating an opportunity for other people to argue and show two sides of an issue to then help the best solution appear. And within his business, he considers his business a meritocracy, which meritocracy is something where people move up based on their ability rather than election, or rather than you've been there a certain amount of time so then you earn it that way. No, it's your ability to anyone could move to the top if they were good enough. Basically, I think that hopefully that makes sense. I think it's a ideal sounding way of things running, and I think his business very much benefits by most people having a say in almost anything, and he's very open and transparent in most stuff, and he's one of the most humble guys. For being a billionaire, man, is he humble. He doesn't, I don't you should look into him, you should read Principles. I think everyone should. Just to understand like how simple it is and how he thinks, it just very clearly, in my opinion, comes out in his writing, and it is unique. It's very rational. He will define something before he uses it, very much defining his terms and all that stuff. So there's very little to be misinterpreted. Very little to be misinterpreted. Anyway, I'm way off the topic here. This video is getting longer than necessary, but yeah, the emphasis is, I hope it's a reminder of myself to remember the basics. The basics are basic and simple, but they make a big difference. And some basics if I was going to say some things that I would start with are: get enough sleep, try to get good nutrition, try to work out, try to have a time to just think and reorganize your mind, and try to put yourself in a position where you're being influenced by people that are where you want to be. They're ahead of you. Try to get on. If you can get those on a daily basis, I think your life's going to change for the better. And I think you're going to, in so many ways, I think you're going to feel better. Like my last video, I talked about taking you want a big idea, but you want to take the little steps possible, and you want to get dopamine basically from those little steps, and that, among other things, helping you feel good and actually get something done and can get somewhere. Anyway, yeah, don't forget the basics. They're actually extremely important. And saying this to myself too. Anyway, very long video. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day and a good night.